Today, we're looking at a blue ink by Callifolio Ohlanga. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, down below in the description, there's timestamps of all the parts of the video, and if you are in a hurry, you can skip around, but if you got the time, I'd appreciate you if you check out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like ink reviews, I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I did the writing samples, then put the ink into this Levenger True Writer with a broad nib. I wrote with it for a day, and then used it to take the notes for this video. This first writing sample is done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Additional papers will show up later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. There is some color variation if you look at how dark Callifolio is to how light the NGA is. Extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some nice peppering of shading throughout with 7 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, just a hair lighter than the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, the shading is more pronounced here than it was with the extra fine. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show some good color variation, and we get it in the writing. Well, Tomoe River, no bleeding, light Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, some nice peppering of shading throughout. 13 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, I'd say about as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some peppering of shadings, just like the extra fine. 21 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation, although we do get it in the writing. And a Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is a little bit lighter than a stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, very nice shading throughout, peppering all over. A lot of it all over, but it's just peppered there. It's not, it's I don't know, pick a word and stare at a word and really get it. Look at what's going on with in the Q, into U, into all the way through just the word quick. And you start to see the peppering of shading. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, about the same tone as the stub. With no feather spread, halo sheen, there's some shading, not a ton. Just little bits, like if you look at the word fox, you see little bits of mid to dark to mid to dark. 13 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows a lot more color variation than the medium, which is how it happened in the writing. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this ink that largely looks blue while you're writing with it is a purple at the bottom that pushes its way up. Well, most of that purple is staying, but some pushes up. We see a water separation and then this green. And I'm calling it a blue, although at times it definitely has a turquoise kind of look to it. Anyway, the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I put it into water. And that purple is very much on the bottom and not budging. There is not as much water or separation from the water, but there is some as the green pushes up. Now, green and purple, this is not the tone that I would expect for mixing a green and a purple. That's very interesting. I would more expect a brown. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, it seems to do well enough to go ahead and highlight if you wanted to use this while you were note taking. It just might look a little bit ugly, but it would work. Now water's lifting all of the green, leaving all of the purple that we saw. Water was not enough to get this out of my pen. Pen flush takes out all of the green. It starts to break up the purple. You do see it starting to break it up. Now pen flush is all that it took to get this out of my pen. 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper, but there is no need to use that to get it out of your pen. I test viscosity or flow with a thing called a tilt test. I'll link it somewhere down below or up in the cards. Now, for the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Callifolio Ohlanga has a viscosity of 2.05, making this a wet ink.
To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average all 6 of those numbers. Now, for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds.
Callifolio Ohlanga has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it a fast-drying ink. Instead of finding inks that look like Callifolio Ohlanga, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I went for a nice magenta. I chose Robert Oster's Maroon 1789. The second writing sample is done on yellow Rhodia, Levenger, and Strathmore writing paper. Here we're looking at the yellow Rhodia paper, really to see what kind of tone change we get. And it's strange because this is very blue leaning as a turquoise, which is why I was calling it blue. It's very blue leaning, but this, very green. So that yellow backdrop really changed it. In the childhood, yellow and blue make green, but it means that this is also a very translucent ink. Levenger paper, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen. It does have some shading because you can see the Ohlanga is a little bit lighter than the Callifolio as a tone. Extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, peppering of shading all throughout, 3 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine does show some color variation, the medium shows none, and that's what we got. Last up is Strathmore writing paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a peppering of shading throughout where we get some darker letters, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 6 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine does show a little bit, just a little bit of color variation left to right. We do get that. The medium shows none, and we got none. And that is all that I have for the writing sample. So what do I think of Callifolio Ohlanga? Its swatch is blue, but the writing is much more turquoise. It does offer some decent shading throughout the writing, but it's shading turquoise, not blue. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? A wet pen is going to go ahead and give you a darker color but sacrifice the shading, where a medium to dry pen is going to go ahead and give you some nice shading within the writing. Like a medium to dry stub would be perfect. I do new ink reviews every single day, so if you're new here, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.